behind us is a piece in which we've installed 3 architectural objects that are in a state of change, and they vary from one to the other. And then there's a kind of an ever-changing light and spatial flux that goes over these objects, and then they're reflected into these glass panels. And so you have a kind of infinite set of possibilities for architectural possibilities, let's say, as a kind of experimental piece. This is a work, latest in a series of projects we've done, going back to Documenta, back to the Biennale we did in 2004 and 2000. It's a kind of what I call a sort of architectural wind tunnel. The project in a way reveals in real time, in real space, the kind of things that we're able to conceive of in computers and digital means, but we wanted to do something without any real digital mechanisms at work. There's no computer images here. It's absolutely real, and that's for us kind of a fascinating step forward. It's from that territory outside of architecture, that territory out there, which we then bring back to the profession, our discoveries, our findings, our ways of pushing the envelope and pushing forward with the discipline. I think the thing you take out of this as a practicing architect is that you cannot lose sight of the fact that that there's a side to this art form, there's a side to this business, there's a side to this industry, which is about discovery, thinking, theory, and envisioning possibilities. I did this piece, as we do all of our experimental pieces, not so much to kind of make a show or to show off, but really as a point of inspiration. I would hope that any architect practicing today, seeing this piece or any of these pieces, gets inspired to go back to their office, back to their computer, back to their drawing board, and see the remarkable possibilities that architecture holds for producing powerful ways in which we as human beings live, work, play in the world. We're part of a story. Next to us in the Himmelblau piece, which is from the 1960s, is a kind of, let's say, grandfather to our piece that situates that notion of experimentation and dreaming about the future and dreaming about possibilities. And we are now producing a piece which is dreaming about another future. Maybe 30 years from now, this piece will sit next to another architect's work which looks at the future again.
Our astro balloon is a very old idea. We did 40 years ago, 69, we did a prototype, and I was dreaming then that in the future we will have the technical possibility to realize it, and now the dream is reality. Namely, if you step in and you touch the handle, you can see and hear your heartbeat. That means your body is part of the architecture and your body changes architecture. So the theoretical background is not architecture is influencing the human being, but the human being is able to change architecture. Architecture has the duty to create spaces which are committed to a new experience for our senses. So this is what this prototype shows. Architecture comes from thinking, not from building. Therefore, we shouldn't confuse building with architecture. And negative, that would mean that, like Aaron Betsky says, the buildings are the tombstones of architecture. I think the Architectural Biennale is becoming more and more obsolete. Too much exposition and too less profile. Nevertheless, the topic of Aaron Betsky is great and focus the most important issue nowadays, namely that architecture is also thinking.
We're precisely interested in what this city actually produces, and what it produces is actually an export of itself. It exports itself as a brand. So we took up the notion of a chain city, like a chain hotel, one that can reproduce itself all over the world, and in fact there are many Venices. We shot this piece from the prow and the stern of a gondola, and there is a narrative, a kind of life story told by the gondolier, and it's a fictional character. We hope that the visitor is actually listening carefully, because it's a 35-minute piece that is very specific to life of a normal citizen, with relationship to a city that's devoted to tourism, the contempt and love for tourists, the notion of the economy. So the audience is actually seeing a kind of what the audience would typically see, the scene that's described by the gondolier, but also behind the scenes at the same time.
Almost 30 years, they still think.
We hope that when people leave the Biennale site, that they actually see Venice through a different lens, and look underneath its mask.